But we see here, Nebuchadnezzar, he did so much that he wanted to make a gold image of himself.
My God, my God forsaken me. I remember when you said,
Came forward, accused the Jews. Accused the Jews. And you know, that's how haters get sometimes. Instead of just getting to the point and accusing who they wanted to accuse and trying to throw those that they want to throw into some mess, they just throw it out there to everybody. But then when the rubber meets the road and they get down to it, then they got to make it plain. He says, they spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever." And that's another thing about them haters. They be, can I say this? They be butt kissing all the time. That's them haters. And what they think that's going to get them a little farther than what really they going to get. Then he said, "You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery in a symphony with all of the music shall fall down and worship the gold image and whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace." Watch him. He said, there are certain Jews, now they want to get specific, who have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. See, now, haters usually are mad at you because you have a little more prestige, prominence, money, or something that they don't have. So what's the first thing they do? They want to throw you up under the bus and put you in the middle of a mess. So the king being enraged that these cats that I done put over these things are not doing what I asked them to do. So here we get to the text. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and in fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Now watch this. He said in rage and in fury. See, people, we need to be careful about how we react to things. See, I've learned in my short time on this earth not to react to things but respond. See, I need to sit back and give myself a little time to think about what the actual response or the correct thing to do after something. See, but Nebuchadnezzar doesn't. He reacts because he reacts in anger. Last time I checked the record, the Bible says anger, but sin not. Then verse 14 said, Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up?" He asked them the question. Y'all ain't, when the music play, y'all ain't bowing down and worshiping the gods and worshiping this gold idol? And I don't want to add nothing to the word, but I bet he was thinking, worship this gold idol with me. Then he says, I'm going to have to switch Bibles, because this one gets me all mixed up. "Now, if you are ready at the time, you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery and symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands?" You see, that's how non-believers are. They have no idea the power of God and what he can and cannot do. He's able to do all things but fail. But it gets real good here when we get to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's response. Verse 16, and I'm going to read from the old King James Version. Shadrach, Meshach, and O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. Now, can I park here for a second? They said they are not careful. In other words, they saying, I'm not going to sit down and take no thought about what my answer is. I'm not going to tiptoe around what my answer is. I'm not going to play games with you about my answer. And see, that's the biggest problem with us today. We want to tiptoe around the truth. We want to play games with the truth. We don't want to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But that's what God expects out of us. See, if I tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, if I step on your toes, I'm sorry. But it ain't me coming down your street, it's God coming down your street. I'm just delivering his message. So I'm not going to play with you, and I'm not going to play games with you. I'm going to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Why? Because that activates my faith. See, I believe if I do what I'm supposed to do and say what I'm supposed to say, my God is going to be there for me. They said, if in verse 14, that word if, that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. See, they use that word if because they're not knowing what the true will of God is in this situation. We talked about this in Sunday school this morning. Paul said, for me to live is Christ and for me to die is gain. He said he was caught betwixt the two. In other words, if he lived on, he continually preached the gospel of Jesus Christ, which was good for us. But if he died, he was a far more better because he would have been with Christ in heaven. So we see that faith here in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said, if he saves us, but we know he's able. And see, that's the kind of faith that you need. You got to know that he can do all things but fail. But the question is, if he would do it. Because it's not always for our benefit, the things that he do. It's for the benefit of somebody else. That somebody else might see the power and miracles of God and change their life. Then they said, but if not, let it be known that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. Let me go back just a little bit. The finished verse 17. And they said, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. So one thing they were sure of is that no matter what he decided to do, no matter what happened, he had no control over their lives. And that's what something we just need to know sometimes, that the devil has no control over our lives. If you trust and believe in God and put your hand in his hand and follow after them, nothing or no one can hurt you. I heard somewhere it says that all weapons formed against you shall not prosper. You don't hear me. Then they said, but if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor we will nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. In other words, they say, not. And see, that's one thing we need to be, people. We need to be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the word of the Lord. See, we got too many wishy-washy Christians today. I don't mean to push it, but let me drop it. You either with him or you're not. See, we got people that want to straddle the fence all the time. Either you're on his side or you're not. I can't say one thing and go out and do something else. That's straddling the fence. Either I'm with you or I'm not. We see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was with him. Watch this. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Full of fury. See, I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm not going to let nobody or nothing change my demeanor. I've gotten to the point where I've grown, and I work in a school, and I tell these kids all the time, they can say whatever they want to about you. You got to be big enough to just turn and walk away. See, you're not going to push me to a point where I do something that's especially against my God. He said he spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And you know, number 7 is a sign of completion, or a number of completion or perfection. Let's watch this. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor. Now, when he says certain, let's look at that word, certain. The word certain means incapable of failing. In other words, he went and chose men that he knew or he thought they wouldn't fail in the task in which he had set before them. He got them to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. And it says, then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. In other words, these mighty men, incapable of failing, grabbed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego with all their clothes on. And see, that's important that you remember that all their clothes were on, because clothing burns faster. Clothing will burn and scorch onto your body. So in other words, he was so mad, not only did he want them to burn, he wanted them to suffer in their burning. But watch God. Then these men were bound in their coats and their trousers and their turbans and their garments, and were cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, didn't he just say they were certain men incapable of failing? Let me tell you, people, your arm's too short to box with God. If God be for me, who can be against me? See, you can't beat God. You can use your strongest people, your strongest, whatever you want to do. You can't beat God. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. In other words, they now in the furnace, and they should be burnt up, because that furnace killed the men that got close to it. And now Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is in the midst of this fiery furnace, which is hotter 7 times than it usually is. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? Now he rise in haste, because now he's beginning to think. It was 3 men we tossed in here, but there got to be something happening now, something going on that it just ain't right to me now. What is it? They answered and said to the king, true, O king. Then he said, look. He answered, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. And then I looked and researched this thing. Do you know in the Old Testament, that is the only time in Scripture that Son of God is mentioned. And I was astounded. I'm like, wow, this man that was a non-believer now is a believer. He has now observed a miracle in the midst of a mess. Because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was in a mess. Now the king has observed the power of God and the power of the Son of God, and the Son of God hadn't even came about yet. It's something about God. When he touches you, he lets you see things that's going to happen. He gives you revelation on things that are to come. He helps us in the midst of the fiery furnace. And let me tell you this, a lot of people, when they get in the middle of stuff, in the middle of a mess or whatever, the first thing they pray is, oh Lord, bring me out of this. That's not the answer. See, we go through some things sometimes to help and better us. It's a test and a trying of our faith to see if we're going to stand tall and do what he's asked us to do. See, the better thing is that I ask the Lord, get in this mess with me. See, I'd rather have the Lord in the middle of a mess with me, then he can perform a miracle to bring me out and help me rather than bringing me out of that mess. Because if I bring out of that mess, it's going to come back to me, because I got to learn a lesson in my mess. Whether I brought it a pass or somebody else brought it a pass. See, he's able. You hear me? He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you ask or think. So if he get in my mess, I'm all right. Whether I make it myself or somebody makes it for me. But you remember, you got to have faith. I got to trust. I got to believe that he is able to see me through. He's able to bring me out. He's able to help me in my time of need. He's able to keep me from falling. He's able to keep me from burning up. See, because we all are tried in the fire. The question is, are you going to come forth as pure gold? He's able to perform a miracle in the middle of your mess now. You might not be in a fiery furnace. You might be going through some relationship problems. You might be going through some children problems. You might be going through some kind of problem. But ask God to get in that mess with you. He's able. He's able. He's able to see you through. Now, I said earlier, a miracle is an extraordinary event manifested by divine intervention in human affairs. Miracles are not for those that sit here in this house right now if you truly believe. Miracles are for those who don't believe. Watch the rest of this. Then Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spoke, saying, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. See, at first, he wanted them to worship his gods, his golden image. But now, he speaks of the Most High God, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then he says, then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came from the midst of the fire. And watch this. Don't you think it's amazing? Furnace had not been cooled down yet. How is it he was able to go to the word says, he went to the mouth of the furnace. But when he sent his certain men, they burnt up. See, when you come to a realization that God is God, he is who he says he is, and he's able to do what he says he can do, he can protect you also in the middle of a mess. He can protect you from getting burnt up. See, what we see is Nebuchadnezzar, and I tell people this all the time, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. See, he now has been tried himself in the furnace, and he has come forth as pure gold. But then he goes on, he says, then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came from the midst of the fire, and the satraps, administrators, governors, the kings, the counselors gathered together, and they saw these men on whose bodies fire had no power. The hair of their head was not singed, nor their garments affected, and the smell of fire was not on them. Ooh, what a God we serve. Not only is he able to keep you in the midst of the fire, he can bring you out smelling like a rose. What a God we serve. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, blessed be God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants and who trusted in him. And you know, I'm going to stop right there. I put a question before you this day. In the middle of your mess, in the middle of your trials and your tribulations, in the middle of all the things that you're going through, do you trust him? Do you trust him? When things are going bad, do you trust him? When it seems like nothing's going right, do you trust him? That's what you need to pose to yourself. See, I trust him. I've stared death in the face on several occasions, but I trusted him. Do you trust him today? If you don't know him, I invite you now to come. And if you think you know him and you want to get to know him a little better, I invite you to come. If you're in the middle of a mess, this is the perfect time to come. Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Come. He's able. not only is he able, he'll get in that mess with you. And then when that mess is over, you'll come through smelling like a rose. But you got to trust him. Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus just now. Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus just now. He will save you. He will save you. He will save you just now. Though there were none, there's still yet room at the cross. At this time, and I like how Pastor Arthur puts this, it's time for tithe and offerings. And I'm just taken by, he says, put that tithe and offering in your right hand, because we give God what's right, not what's left. And I pray and hope that something that was said here today can help you move on just a little bit further. Just trust in God in all things. Put your faith in him, and I tell you, I'm getting close to 60, but he has not failed me yet. And I've been in the middle of some messes. I've had doctors count me out and tell my children they didn't think I was going to see the morning. But God, I've been shot at, and he's moved bullets out the way. But God, I've been in the middle of some mess. And each and every time, he's got in that mess with me. And there's been some messes I put myself in. And it's been some messes other people put me in. But through it all, he's able to see you through. Now, this is the part that gets me. I'm a little confused on how he has this done. He's used to doing it. But if we could all stand.
Everybody from that way go to the wall.
And my brother Deacon probably can help me out with this.